That was a big old bowl of what did I just watch? They only did not stick the landing, they stunk the landing. DT2 Comics Chat here for your Secret Invasion Episode 6 finale review, episode entitled Home. Now, that was one of the most disappointing series finales I've ever seen. It had some good points, but it was one of those things where you walked away with more questions than you had before the episode started, and you had to ask, did these writers actually watch their own show? Because the way that ended was just, I'm scratching my head. I'm like, well, what? Wait a minute, what? But there were a few good points. I'm going to start with one main point that I want to restate. I still don't believe that this is the end of Maria Hill, not for real. Because in comic book anything, nobody's ever really dead. So I still think in some way she's coming back. Maybe they'll resurrect her like they're going to resurrect Kamala Khan, and she'll be a plant clone, I don't know. But Kobe Smulders and the Maria Hill character deserved better. She deserved a better ending than that, and she deserved to have her place in Avengers mythology sealed, canonized, honored, not dying in the street, shot by some Skrull posing as Fury. That just won't accept it. That's just kind of ridiculous, really. So we'll start off with what I did like about this episode, and what I did like was the fact that Fury and Vara finally reconciled their relationship to some kind of satisfaction. I have to say that I have liked Vara from the beginning, and I really thought they were going to kill her. I really thought she was going to die. I'm so glad she didn't, because I enjoy the character, I enjoy the actress who plays her, and I enjoy the chemistry that she and Fury have. So what they did was it was really more than a resolution. It was kind of a life lesson, and that is that if you choose to be with someone, now you can't choose who you love. You can only choose what you do about it. And if you choose to be with someone, you have to accept them as they are. You have to accept them for who they are, not who you wish they were. And so at the very end, when Vara turns into her Skrull form, she says, I just wanted to tell you that I love you as I am. And Fury just smiles and says, as you are. Q is a visual metaphor for saying that we accept that, this is the relationship that we have. We accept our priorities and everything that comes along with it, and we're going with it. I really like that. Some people might think that was overly romanticized, but I don't think that's a bad thing. We need that kind of connection sometimes in our fictional stories. That's not a bad thing to have the relationship go there. So I really like that. And I'm glad that they both felt like it was worth the risk. They both felt like that the love between them was real enough and strong enough and deep enough to accept everything that was going to come along that path. So I really liked it. And she said at the end, I can take care of myself. And she proved in the series that she could, and that she didn't really want to die because she didn't just stand there and let them kill her. And she fought back. And so, I just really liked that. And that was probably the thing I liked most about the episode, honestly. Next up, we have the end of Rhodey Skrull, which she, whatever, didn't die hard enough. I'm glad that, they pulled a bait and switch in the sense of it was the real Fury that got to confront the president and Rhodey Skrull, and he couldn't talk his way out of that when they had a brief fight, and then Fury blows a hole in his head. And I really like that, but he should have died harder because he was so much of a jerk. He was just annoying and irritating and provocateur and just a whole bunch of things that demanded a harder death, but at least they didn't get away with what they were trying to do. I'm glad about that. I'm glad that Fury confronted them personally, along with the help of Sonya, obviously, and I'm glad that the president saw it up to a point, which leads me to the next point, which is the president's response. That made no sense. If you're the president, you're supposed to be able to function under pressure better than that. You're supposed to be able to have more of an objective worldview. What the president did was such a cowboy, emotional, visceral gut response, like he had been in a bar fight or something. I understand that response, but you're supposed to be mature enough as the commander-in-chief to understand that you can't dictate national policy coming from your gut like that, just having some type of reaction to everything that was going on. And I was really disappointed in that, because I was like, do you realize what you unleashed on the country? You unleashed a national panic. You unleashed terrorist acts. You unleashed, as the episode talked about, vigilante acts. And you told your enemies that you were coming. I mean, everything about that was bad. The president has to be more responsible than that. And so now people are going to see Skrulls everywhere. Now a lots and lots and lots of innocent people are going to die. Now, you will never know if you've wiped them all out. And I mean, at the end, Fury also talked about when he's talking to the president, what about the ones that are friendlies? What about the ones that want to help us? That kind of thing. And nothing about the president's response has any sense of what you would expect the president to do, to think about, to be able to grasp at the presidential level, that you can't just say stuff like that to people, that there are aliens among us and they're shapeshifters, and think that half the country is not going to be dead because people have shot each other in less than a week, because that's exactly what would happen. Because Americans are armed to the teeth, and then you give them a new enemy to fight that only reveals their true colors after they're shot. Are you kidding me? So, I mean, I couldn't believe that. I still can't believe that. That was so small, immature, petty. That was just the wrong thing to do. That is not going to solve any problems. That is going to create more problems with the panic and the anarchy that it creates on American streets. So, I mean, and then how do you clean up in the aftermath of that? Like, where do you go from there? Because the paranoia will remain. So, I mean, that was just, I don't have enough words for how bad of a choice that was for the commander-in-chief to make. And how he could see that is beyond. And who's going to clean up that mess when he gets shot, because he will, or when he gets out of office? That mess will still be there. So then what? Which leads us, of course, to the biggest ridiculousness in this entire episode, and that being the final confrontation between Fury and Gravik. Surprise, it's not actually Fury. They did a bait and switch. Now, I understand that, but the way the resolution played out was just pathetic on a variety of levels. First of all, that speech that Gravik gives Fury at the end was one of the best speeches of the entire show. It was well written, but so well acted. The passion, the intensity, Gravik's disappointment in Fury as my hero, and you didn't keep your word, and you got to take matters in our own hands, and this is all your fault, and just so many different things, and the vehemence with which, the passion with which that speech was delivered was incredible. Turns out it's not actually Fury hearing it, so Fury will never hear that, okay? So that's strike one. Strike two is the whole idea of giving up the harvest, giving up the Avengers DNA in the first place, because I'm like, did you think that through? If you're saying that the bargain was for you to give Gravik the Avengers DNA, and in return, he was going to call off the instigation of World War III, and Gaia Fury said, get off the planet, go do whatever it is you need to do off-world, go conquer another planet and another species if you have to, just leave Earth alone. I'm saying to myself, once he gets the power of the Avengers, how could you stop him? So once he absorbs all that power and is able to do all the things that the Avengers could do, what if he turned around and said, do you know? What if he just breaks his word? Then what do you do? Now you've got this all-powerful Super Skrull, and with no guarantee he's gonna do what he said or leave the planet or whatever. So I was like, so I understand the bait and switch. I understand that was the backup plan, but it was just executed so poorly. Next thing, now you've heard me talk about this with Superman and Kryptonians all the time, but the next thing that was ridiculous, even for comic book science, even for comic book physics, the thing that's ridiculous is that they bathe in that machine for literally less than 3 minutes, and all that DNA and all those powers are transferred. So first of all, Gravik had more experience with altered DNA in terms of having the powers. I know Gaia had some extremist tech in her, because that's how she survived that gunshot Gravik gave her a couple episodes ago. But it's another one of those things where they're exposed, and then they both have full access to all of the powers, and they both have, wait for it, instant mastery. That is one of my most hated tropes. That's one of my biggest comic book pet peeves. Peter Parker gets bitten by the spider, and he falls asleep, and he's dizzy, and it takes a while for his DNA to be rewritten to blend with that of the spider. On The Flash, CW, Barry Allen gets hit, the particle accelerator is going off, the chemicals are around him, then the lightning hits, and he gets bathed in all of that lightning, particle accelerator, radiation, and chemicals. Barry's in a coma for 9 months as his body readjusts to having super speed. Superman lands here as a baby, and at least on Smallville, he developed his powers in adolescence, and he developed them one at a time. The first thing that Superman gets is invulnerability and strength, which makes sense because of steel skin and so his molecules being more densely packed. All of that makes sense. But other Kryptonians come here and they bathe in the yellow sun's rays for 5 minutes. Other Kryptonians come here and they bathe in the yellow sun's rays for 5 minutes, and they've got all his powers and they got instant mastery over them. And so now they have this awful CGI fight where they're kind of, changing powers as they need to, calling up different aspects of the DNA to form into who they need to form into. And so I really thought that Captain Marvel herself, I really thought that Brie Larson was going to show up, because I'm like, if you could spring for Samuel L. Jackson, how could you not spring for at least one episode, with Brie Larson? But instead, we get Captain Gaia, and she's got all the powers after 5 minutes in that machine, and she knows how to use them, and they can just call him up at will. And I'm like, they finally gave Gravik exactly what he wanted, and he's dead in less than 5 minutes of being the ultimate Super Skrull, because here comes Gaia, and somehow they have the exact same powers, but she's better. Of course she is. And so it was just so anticlimactic, and the CGI was kind of bad. And I'm like, it's another one where they built him up as a really good villain. They built him up as a villain with a solid motivation. They built him up as a villain with a solid plan. And then he's defeated by this. And again, it takes less than 5 minutes, and she just punches a hole in his chest. I'm like, now, wait a minute. If it's that easy, I'm sitting there squinting, looking at him. I'm like, he got a hole in his chest? I mean, if it was that easy, it undermines his threat and his menace as a supervillain if that's all it was going to take. Now, I know she's supposedly powered up, and they showed the Captain Marvel powers, but Captain Gaia is just ridiculous. That's a ridiculous character. That's a ridiculous plot development. She's overpowered. She's not interesting as a character. And then, if you notice, she's always wandering. Whenever we see her, she's always wandering. So, which leads us to the other thing. She unleashes all of the humans that were down in the pod underground that the Skrulls had impersonated. Okay. But the question then becomes, how long has Rhodey been down there? How long has Rhodey Skrull been operating as Rhodey? Because that is going to retroactively change everything about the Avengers movies. And that is why I really didn't watch most of most of the Disney Plus shows, because I knew they were going to do that. I knew they were going to undermine the movies. I knew it. So I watched WandaVision, I watched Moon Knight, but Moon Knight didn't have anything to do with the Avengers. And I watched this. I didn't watch Winter Soldier. I didn't watch Loki. I didn't want to see that stuff because I knew what was going to happen. So I'm like, we need to know, how long have we been watching Rhodey Skrull, and at what point did the switch happen that, real Rhodey goes into the pod and Skrull Rhodey's been doing, because that's going to change how we see everything that happens in the films. And I don't think that's a good thing. Okay. So then Fury goes back and Var goes with him, and they're going to do what now? So Sonya is probably the breakout character of this whole series, because she's great. She's snarky, she's quippy, and she's never wrong, okay? But she's not annoying. That's how you write a character like that. She's not annoying at all. She's on point. Anytime Sonya shows up, it's going to be funny, it's going to be deadly, and it's going to be accurate. So what's not to like? Love her as a character. So she, of course, finds Gaia, and Gaia's like, you need to back up off me because, I got the power now. Oh, where are they going with that character? Seriously. And so Sonya says, we're going to make a truce. You're going to use me. I'm going to use you. There's no illusion of love or friendship. But what we're going to do is make this planet safe for both of our peoples. And then there's a line where Fury's talking with Var about how the Kree were willing to make peace or do whatever. So I'm like, everything about a Marvel show, cut out me scratching my shoulder. Everything about a Marvel show is a setup for the next thing. So I'm like, is this going to be another version of the Kree Skrull War? Are we going to have Secret Invasion Part 2? Are we going to, because now I said this on a pod, you can watch this pod. I did Sloppy Spoilers. I went to Sloppy Spoilers crew, and we talked about the Marvel. Put that up there so you can check that video out. Are we gonna, if I had written this, I would have brought in the Nova Corps, and I hope that's what's coming next. But I'm unclear as to where we're going, because the way this series leaves everything, we have a mass panic in America and on Earth. And we have a Super Skrull walking around, wandering. What was she gonna do? Where was she going? We have an uneasy alliance between Sonya and Captain Gaia. Fury's going back to the space station with his Skrull wife, and and then what? You know, I don't really see where this is going. I don't really see what the next story is. But this one, after that, we actually really needed a two-parter because we needed some more time with the larger issues that this finale raises because of the state of the earth now. So I really don't know where they're going, except to say in the Marvel's trailer, once again, you can watch that podcast, they were talking about how these are the new leaders of the new Avengers. So if that's where we're going, if we're going to do Avengers Phase 2, led by Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, Photon. What name is she going to take? Because she was actually the original Captain Marvel after Marvel died. That actually was Monica Rambeau. They took that moniker way before Carol Danvers, but you have to read the comics and know that. So Captain Marvel, Photon, and Ms. Marvel, they're going to be the leaders of the new Avengers. They're going to be the leaders of the new Avengers. Is it going to be A-Force? You know, so see, the momentum has petered out from the Avengers wave. Most people, both normies and comics fans alike, feel like it ended with Endgame. That was it. That really was it. And so that's why I haven't really been interested in everything that they've been doing on the Disney Plus shows, because it's just a dilution of that kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't know why they don't get that the momentum isn't there anymore, but I know they're going to use Kamala Khan to transition to the X-Men, but they really kind of need to leave Avengers stuff alone. Now, when I say leave it alone, I don't mean get rid of it altogether. I mean, let it rest. If our final shot of Nick Fury is him going back to his space station with his Skrull wife and they're in love and they're together, I think that's a good resolution to his story, because I don't want to see her die. You know, I don't want to see them making any more fun of Nick Fury being older or whatever. This was fun. They need to let the Avengers storylines rest. They really do. So I know we're going to move to X-Men and that's all going to be about Kamala. Eye roll. You know, maybe we could ever get a good Fantastic Four in there. Maybe. I don't know about that. You know, there was a rumor that the lead actors quit, at least Margot Robbie and Adam Driver quit, but we don't know if they were ever really cast. That's all just rumorville. But I'm saying we need to make a conscious shift in the MCU to a different team or a different set of heroes, okay? Because the Avengers stuff is just petered out. The momentum is gone. You know, Chris Evans had the right idea. Chris Evans said he wouldn't be opposed to coming back as Captain America, but he said the legacy was so strong and the character was so well done until he wouldn't want to ruin it. That's the right idea. So my summation of all this is that shot of Nick Fury going up to his space station needs to be the last we see of him and of the Avengers for a while. Let's shift focus to the X-Men or the Fantastic Four. Spend some time with them, then maybe we can blend in the Avengers later, but we do not need to make the Marvels the springboard into the new Avengers. And I don't think normies would want to watch a Kree-Skrull war. If they were going to do that, we should have been dealing with the Nova Corps all this time and been building them up, and then we could take an excursion, you know, into space and spend some time with them, because they're similar to the Green Lanterns. They say that the Nova Corps is the Green Lantern Corps of the Marvel Universe. That's not entirely true, but it's close enough. So that would be a good path to take if we're going to go there. But this needs to be the end of Avengers stuff for a while. So that's it for my review of this episode, this series finale. I want to hear what you have to say. Leave some comments below, because I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your feedback on how you thought it ended, you know, how you wish it had ended, and where does the MCU go from here? All right, I'll see you in the next video.